Our guest today is Mike Bilton, the chair of the board of directors of the Canadian Association of Moldmakers. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hi, Robert. Thanks for having me.
How are you and your family doing during the pandemic?
Oh, quite well. Thank you very much. Everyone's adjusting to the new normal, but around here, around the household, we're doing just fine. Thanks.
Excellent. How has COVID-19 affected you and the mold makers in Canada?
Oh, gosh. There's two sides to the coin. One, the opportunities on the positive side have come about in relationship to the advancement of medical supply into the province from suppliers from around not only Windsor, Essex, but up the 401 corridor. It's been really great.
So obviously, go ahead. Sorry.
The other side of that is, of course, the health and safety of our local manufacturers and the employees, and the impact that COVID's had on everything. It's been quite an uphill battle in some cases, and sort of drinking through the fire hose at the same time. Like I said, both good and bad during these times.
Obviously, mold making has changed and companies have stepped up. Tell us about that process of how you went from, doing the normal business onto where you are now.
I mean, it's no secret. Windsor, Essex has always been known for its position with automotive and everything that comes along with that. But the opportunities really have come about with the call to action for all suppliers. We heard calls from the APMA and at the province to say, look, we can build pretty much anything, just send us the specs. And there's really no way of really beating around the bush on that. It's exactly that. And the opportunity for our suppliers really came about, really them looking in the mirror saying, wow, I can really take a shot at this. Let me see what I have to do. What's it going to cost me, and what's the end result? So feasibility really was the currency during that whole mode.
And it was a pretty quick turnaround for everyone there, right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. It took a few weeks to make sure we got through the minutia of understanding what's actually needed. Specs are specs, and requirements are requirements, but manufacturing and tooling principles, whether it's in the MTDM and sector or industrial automation, it's relatively all the same. We've got the skill set, we've got the machines, and we certainly have the personnel and the willingness to do so. So it was very nice to see. I'm not surprised, but looking ahead, very optimistic about how things are going to move into a different type of product for each manufacturer if they so choose to go that way.
What's the role of the Canadian Association of Moldmakers?
Gosh, our association is a not-for-profit. Our role is to lobby and provide voices to our small to medium-sized enterprises here in not only Windsor, Essex, but all through Ontario and into Canada. Really, our position, at least globally, is to pronounce our skills and abilities, not only in the tech sector, in the applications and how it supplements manufacturing, but really we, I guess more so than anything in the last few months, for sure, is we've acted as a catalyst association to make sure we bridge the gaps between the unknown with the newness of what COVID's brought along in the world of finance and health and safety. And we've done the best we can to make sure that we provide our members with as much information as we can and connect them to those people, whether it's at the provincial level, another industry association, or even to the federal level. We do our best to facilitate anything we can to help.
Can you tell me a bit about the task force that's working with the economic development?
Oh, yeah. Windsor Economic Development Office made a call to us, myself, along with the chair of Automate Canada, Shelley Fellows, have really worked with an internal group pretty much every morning. 7:30 we meet via Zoom meetings, and really the call from the development office was, hey, let's get a pulse check and see what's really happening in manufacturing, whether it be in mold, tool, and die, or in industrial automation side of things. It's really trying to understand what the lay of the land was, feel the employees, the employers, blind spots, challenges, good news, bad news. Really the good, the bad, and the ugly all together. So the reporting out to the WEETC office was every week, every Wednesday afternoon. And basically, not only for manufacturing, but tourism and agriculture, the major drivers, at least economically, those drivers we reported into the development office to give them a feel of what's happening out there.
Can you go over some of the PPEs that that the mold makers have now supplied?
I mean, there's been thousands of manufacturers that answered the call, whether they were selected or not. Those were on a case-by-case basis. But what manufacturing did was, like I said before, they took a look in the mirror to say, what can I produce, and whether it's actually the part needed or the final assembly that's needed. It was either that or a small part or a widget or a child part that would supplement another or facilitate another assembly to produce that product that needed to go to the frontline workers first and foremost. Ventilators and bits and pieces of that, face shields, masks, you name it. The call to the table was certainly a loud one, and I'm awfully proud of what the manufacturing sector in the province has come around to show off.
Yeah, definitely helping out in a very difficult time. So is this keeping the mold makers extremely busy and their employees?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, in a nutshell, yeah, it's nearly back to normal when it comes to that, aside from the challenges that are out there with finance. A lot of orders, because as I mentioned before, we're so heavily flavored in automotive, the cycle and the nature of the cycle of production in tooling and equipment and automation that goes along with it. We're right in the springtime, and typically without an interruption like this, we'd be heading full steam into this with getting ready for July, August, and September to get ready for a pre-launch run at rate activity to make sure that all the equipment and the tooling is running at top end to be ready for the delivery of the product to the tier 1 or to the factory line side direct.
Will mold makers return to their original production line, or will this be another product that they can continue to manufacture?
Yeah, I mean, as a whole, I mean, outside of automotive, and there's plenty of it. I mean, anything really with made of plastic, you can thank a mold maker for it on some level. But whether it's consumer goods or military or aviation, aerospace, automotive, you name it, mold makers, I feel, will get back to a sense of normal at some point. I mean, right now the priority is the health and safety and making sure that we don't, kind of trip over our own feet, getting them back into a potential second wave of this. But when it comes to getting back to it, the automotive side, I think is most up in limbo right now. It's sort of a floating target, kind of flying a plane, one building it at the same time. Automotive as a whole right now is tender as we stand right now. The next 30 to 45 or even 60 days will really be a good gut check on what's to come as far as production and inventory levels of cars in the lots and in supply at the tier 1s and the volume production manufacturers.
We pretty well covered everything. Now, I always like to look at some hope. What are you looking forward to when the pandemic is over?
Well, gosh, I could rattle off 4 or 5, but I mean, the number one thing that comes to mind is the opportunity. We've heard from leaders in our industry and around in our region in the past, and I consider myself no different. We need to be awfully proud of what we do in the region. The success stories that have come out from these companies creating these products and parts and widgets to answer the call has been mind-numbing. And it's just like back in the day when they said, it's not that we didn't want to go to the moon, we just decided to do it. It was just a matter of choice, and folks decided to say, well, I can actually take a shot at this. Maybe it takes a little bit of money. There's a little bit of spending that needs to happen internally, but eventually we'll get there. And I think that's really what's happening. And the positive takeaway from that is the diversification of product and even the way they are doing business internally, branching off from a typical consumer goods or automotive manufacturer and tooling and equipment into, say, medical that we've seen over the past few months has really opened the eyes of opportunity. So I'm quite grateful for the opportunity for that in light of what's happening out there with the pandemic.
Well, Mike, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Please pass on to the mold makers our appreciation for being able to pivot at a very difficult time and helping out not just Windsor but the whole country supplying these goods. So thank you once again for that.
Yeah, of course, and thanks on a personal note. Thanks to all the manufacturers out there for stepping up and calling myself, calling the association, and just doing everything you can to find out what you can do to help. It's been overwhelmingly positive. So thank you for that. Thanks to the members.
Well, thanks, Mike. You please stay safe and stay well.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it.
That was Mike Bilton, Chair, Board of Directors, Canadian Association of Mold Makers.